Hi, how you doing, everybody? This is Mr. Russo with section 2.2, the distributive property. Basically, the distributive property just means to multiply into the set of parentheses that you have. Okay, for example, if you have -2, then a parenthesis right next to it, and right next to it there's no plus or minus, maybe something like 3x plus 5. Okay, first thing you have to acknowledge is, with PEMDAS, it tells you to work inside the parentheses first and try to simplify what's inside. Now, you cannot simplify what's inside in this particular question because 3x is a term that is unlike to positive 5 without an x. Whenever you are adding and subtracting integers, or whenever you're adding and subtracting terms together, you want them to be like terms. Like terms are terms that have the same variable and exponent. Now, this one obviously doesn't have a variable with the same exponent. So they're unlike, so I know I can't put them together. So now what's left to do is distribute. I know that I'm distributing because it's multiplication when I do not have a plus or minus there. Okay, so that's important. All right, so let's distribute. I take this -2, I multiply it in. What's -2 times +3? -6, and I just tack on the x. What's -2 times +5? -2 times +5, -10. And at this point, you can't do anything else. You can't solve it. It's not an equation where you have an equal sign. You can't simplify it because this term has an x, this term doesn't, and they're unlike terms. So you can't do anything else. You just simplify it. So for that example, you are done. You distributed and you simplified the expression. Done. Example 2. If you have the number on the other side with a set of parentheses, maybe you'll have something like this. 3x squared minus 4x plus 1 times -4. You can absolutely have the number that you're going to distribute maybe just on the right-hand side. Later on, in higher levels of mathematics, you might have more things that you have to distribute, but most of the time when starting off learning the distributive property, you're going to have just one thing being distributed into the set of parentheses. So -4 into all three terms, and all three terms cannot be combined because all three terms do not have the same variable and exponent. -4 times +3, that's my phone going off. Okay, so -4 times +3 is -12x squared. -4 times -4 is +16x. You just keep bringing down the variable that's with the coefficient that you're multiplying by. And -4 times +1 is -4. And again, you can't do anything else. You just have the three terms that are unlike because they have different variables and exponents, and you're not solving it. It doesn't have an equal sign. So the only thing that's left to do is just circle it and say that you're done. That is basically the distributive property in section 2.2 of our pre-algebra textbook.